We are continuing on Shulchan Aruch Orach Chaim Hilchot Shabbat, and we are in the very end of Siman Resh Tzadichet, Seif Yudalit, discussing the halacha of what can and what cannot be used for a candle for Havdalah to say Bore More Ha'esh. And this is a very relevant one. Can you use a light bulb for Havdalah if you don't have a candle, but you do have an incandescent lamp? Imagine nowadays it's much more difficult because everything is the LED lighting is becoming more and more prevalent, but which is not considered fire necessarily, but the incandescent older lamps that you have actual heated metal, tungsten metal inside the bulb. Can you say Havdalah on that? But prior to this, it's kedai to note that the Tur writes in Siman Resh Tzadivav, I believe he writes that if you don't have a candle on Motzei Shabbat, you take a look at the Levana, the stars, and you hold your hand and you say Bore More Ha'esh, right? Now the reason they don't see people do that is because we don't necessarily paskin like that. Safek brachot lakel sabal, but it's interesting. But the Chazal back in the day knew that even that is from fire, because stars, they have their own light. Obviously, it is from the explosions, the nuclear explosions that they have, and the planets. I mean, the most famous of which being the moon is obviously the reflection of the light of the sun, which is fire. So that is what the Tur brings, but we don't necessarily paskin like that. Chacham Obadiah, it's Shuvah in Yevia Omer Chelek Aleph Orach Chaim Siman Yudchet. This is L'maaseh Safek Brachot La'akel, and we don't do that. The Tur also writes once you're at it that if you don't have that, and it's Yom Me'unan, it's cloudy, so you don't have access to the stars either, you pick up a stone and you say bracha on it, which obviously means you're talking about the stones that could be creating the sparks of fire. So that is the backdrop of this, but the Shulchan Aruch talks actually about a fire source which is covered by glass. So says the Shulchan Aruch, Hayu yoshvim, this is Seif Tedvav, Ner betocheko or betoch fanas. If you have a candle that is covered by your body, but the reflection of which you could see, or other people could see, or it is in a fanas, it's covered with the glass container that they used to have back in the day. So you have a flame, but it is covered with a glass surrounding it. Says the Shulchan Aruch, O betoch aspaklaria roeh et hashalhevet. You could see the actual flame. Ve'eno mishtamesh leora. You could see the shalhevet, but you're not using the light of it. Or mishtamesh leora ve'eno roeh et hashalhevet. That you see the light, but you can't see the flame. Says the Shulchan Aruch, en mevarachin ala. You cannot say bracha on that. Now you have to understand that even though that says fanas or the aspaklaria, their glass was not as clear the way we have our clear, nice zchuchit. So that is definitely a pointer there. But Maran is more machmir. En mevarachin ala. We'll see the Mishna Berura brings from the poskim that are more lenient on that in just a moment. You have to have both. You have to be able to see the actual flame. So if someone's body, the guy that's holding the candle on Motzei Shabbat, his back is to you, but you see a good amount of light, the lights of the shul is off, and you can see enough to determine between different coins as the Shulchan Aruch required before. Still you cannot say the bracha. That's one of the reasons that those every person that does anything in the shul has to be a ben Torah, because if you don't know the halachot, that's the reason that person that holding the candle holds it up by the time that comes for saying the Havdalah on the nail, because he wants to not be blocking and other people could see it, not just the reflection but the actual flame as well. So you need to have both of those to be able to say the bracha. Now the the Rabbi Omer, Chacham Ovadia writes in both his two tshuvot, in Chelek Aleph of Rabbi Omer, both in Siman Yud Zayin and Yud Chet, he also had another tshuva in Chelek Zayin, in Siman Lamed Zayin, and this, he says that at the end of the day, Safek, with our light bulbs, even though that they are, the glass is clear, so you can, quote unquote, see the shalhevet, and you could benefit from its light, Lemaaseh, it's not kedai. Lemaaseh, Safek b'achod la'akel, don't do it. Now, we mentioned before that Reb Chaim Ozer Gruzunski, the undisputed Gadol Hador of the previous generation, right before the war, the time of the Chafetz Chaim, he actually is the one that gave smicha to Chafetz Chaim. Chafetz Chaim once, he never got smicha. Chafetz Chaim was the Posek Hador, but he didn't have an actual smicha. So once he needed to travel, and there was a problem with the legal thing, you had to say you're a rabbi. You had to say you're a rabbi, you're a rav, and he didn't know if he could say it because he didn't have actual smicha. Right? So he asked the question to Reb Chaim Ozer, and Reb Chaim Ozer, instead of answering the question if it's mutar for him to say that he is a rav or not, he just sent him a smicha, right? So answering the question in a better way. So that's the time of Chafetz Chaim. It was a tremendous gaon. So Reb Chaim, in order to prove a point that the electricity is considered fire, he would say bedavka, he would say borei moreh ha'esh on a light bulb, right? So we'll see how that works in just a moment. But once we're at it, you have to understand that this had a downside as well. It's a double-edged sword, because many of the poskim were under the impression that the electricity is fire, not just because of the fire that you see, a red hot tungsten in the bulb, but the actual electricity was understood to be fire, right? Now this has both chumrah and kula. For instance, Chacham Ovadia, in the tshuva that he wrote, it became a famous tshuva. He was in Kahir, in Mitzrayim. He became the Rav Arashi there, and there was Bet HaKnesset HaGadol, the main Bet Knesset of Kahir. They had a microphone on Shabbat, and Haravadia did away with that. That's one of the big things that he did there. His main problem was with the shochtim and the cherfot, but one of the things that he did, the tikkunim he took away that microphone, and he wrote an entire tshuva, which later on was printed in Yabia Omer, in Chelek Orachayim, in Chelek Aleph, Siman Yutet. He did it away with it, but in the tshuva there, he's under the impression, and he says he actually spoke to the mumchim in this. I don't know what mumchim he spoke with. This is like 75 years ago maybe, and he says it's pashut, that the fire is running through the wires. So it's he was under the impression that this is like the whole thing is the oraita. Take a look at the Hosafot there in the back of Chaim. Years later, he spoke to Rav Shlomo Zalman Auerbach, who told him that it's pashut, that's the Rabbanan, and so on. So he adjusted certain things at the end with the Osafot there. But that is the chumrah part of it. The cool part of it is, for instance, they printed about 15 years ago the ktavim and tshuvot of the Aruch HaShulchan, Rabbi Chiel Michal Epstein. Right? He was the Mishna Berura of the Ashkenazim before the Mishna Berura became Mishna Berura, right? And he was the Posek Hador. Unfortunately, he was not for a long time, because the Mishna Berura was printed shortly after. But he was the Rav of Novardak. He was a tremendous person. So he writes in Juba that on Yom Tov is mutar to turn off, flip on the switch. Why? Because he was under the impression also, like how we laugh at this nowadays because we don't understand how. We understand how the electrons and how the current of electricity operates, but back in the day he was also under the impression that's actual fire running through the wires. So therefore, the only thing that stops the fire from getting to the bulb is the switch. But when I flip the switch, it's like lighting fire from an already existing fire, which is mutar on Yom Tov, right? But according to what we understand from the actual science of electricity, of course, that's asur, because you're creating a new fire. So that being said, it's the reason Chacham Ovadia holds that you do not say borei moreh ha'esh on a light bulb, even an incandescent lamp. But as we'll see in just a moment, the Mishna Berura Chafetz Chaim writes that there are those who are mekel. I'll just read in the middle of the comments of the Mishna Berura over here. There are some big names in the list of the Poskei Achronim that they write Dafka befanas shihi shel barzel. That's only, and they had two different types of lamps. They had the ones with the glass that you may have seen in some antique stores, and they also had ones that there is no glass. The whole thing is metal, but it has holes inside, and from those holes the oxygen gets in and the light gets out, and that's how it is. So it says that you can't really see the actual shalhevet, the actual flame, but if you have a glass container, then you can actually see the shalhevet. What's the problem? You see the shalhevet, you see the light, you're good to go, says the Magen Avraham. That zchuchit is considered that you see the shalhevet, that is good to go. You could see if you're close by, you could say bracha on it. Has a large arichud over here in Berura Halacha about this. Many poskim hold, like the Shulchan Aruch, to be stringent, not to say bracha, even if you could see the shalhevet, but it's through a glass. But Ken, the psak of Mishna Berura, not like Reb Chaim Ozer, ein kedai lechatchila lehakel bazeh. It's not kedai to be mekel in this particular item, and therefore even the Ben Ish Chai writes the same thing in Pashat Vayetzeh. In Seif Yudalit, the Ben Ish Chai writes the same thing, that if you have, even if the shalhevet, you could see the actual flame, still you should, if people are standing and you cannot see, people are blocking it, you can see the light, but you can't see the shalhevet, and Akedai to say the bracha on that. Now, this is because the logic behind it is because just like the esh that was created by Adam HaRishon on Motzei Shabbat was the esh galui, it was an open fire, we need something that's dugma of that esh. Right, so especially by a light bulb that is, for instance, if you're standing behind the window of a house, right, or a shul, and the gabbai or the balabayit is saying havdalah, and you're seeing the flame nice and bright from outside, well, it's a glass between. Can you say Borei Moreh ha'esh on that? Yeah. Absolutely yes. Because the esh is not covered. It's a proper type of esh, or someone that's wearing glasses, right? Do you have to take your glasses off? No, you don't have to, because it's not considered a chatzitza. It's not an issue of chatzitza. It's an issue of if this fire is an esh galui or not. Whereas in a light bulb, it's not like that. The esh is mechuseh. I'm not sure if I'm allowed to be getting more scientific. The truth of the matter is the way we have, Thomas Edison's version of the incandescent lamps. If you take the glass off, the flame would burn. Would completely get destroyed. So it can't even exist in a galui way. It is the way it is. It's esh mechuseh. So therefore, we have this chumrah again. There are those who say you can. Reb Chaim also did it lemaaseh to prove a point. But for us, halacha lemaaseh, you will be machmir because of safek brachot lakel, especially noting and keeping in mind the fact that Shulchan Aruch before said that ner of Motzei Shabbat is not something that you have to be mechazer acharav. It's not something that you have to. If you have it, you have it. If you don't have it, fine. Life goes on. It's not something that you have to go out of your way to try to find.
So panko breadcrumbs would be midirabanan because they electrocute it. It's not fire.
I'm not sure what that is exactly. You have to explain to me afterwards. But that's again. Yeah, you need to have something that is actual flame.
Aren't you supposed to benefit from the light?
Yes.
So how would they benefit from the light when they're standing outside looking?
No, I'm saying if it's bright enough, the fire, that you could see the light, you could in the light of that fire you could determine coins from each other. That's obviously what we're talking about, right? You'll be surprised how much you could benefit from a light when there's no alternative light. When there's when there's no external lights. If you don't have any artificial lighting, you'll see the tremendous amounts with a little light. So that is basically the end of our Siman. We'll stop here, and Bezat Hashem will continue it in the days to come. Hazaku Baruch.